This is War Stories, a cybersecurity podcast where we extract the best stories from the field of penetration testing. Your host is Zac Davis, experienced cyber and physical security tester. War Stories is brought to you by CyberCoffee, engineered and roasted to keep you hacking the planet all day and night. Give it a try at drinkcybercoffee.com and use promo code WAR10 to save 10%. Enjoy the show.
Zach, say some shit.
Saying some shit. Saying some stuff. Hello. Hello, hello.
Yeah, I think that'll work.
Cool.
All right. How does he do this? He's like, all right, welcome back to another episode of War Stories. I'm your host, Zach. I'm not Zac Davis.
No, you're not.
We've done some tomfoolery today.
Yeah, I'm wearing a hat.
You are wearing a hat. What about the listeners that don't know that you're not the host today?
Oh, well, then I'm sitting on the other side too.
But they can't see you because they're listeners.
Okay. No, I think we're doing something a little different today. You're the host. You got to tell them what it is.
I'm the host. All right. Well, welcome back to another episode of War Stories, the podcast powered by Better Coffee, also known as CyberCoffee.
I'm a fan.
Are you drinking CyberCoffee, Zach?
I am. I have been.
Have you been saving 10% with code WAR10?
I just steal it from the office.
Oh, that's true. You are a hacker.
So, yeah.
All right. I can live with that. So, today's episode of War Stories, we have done the old switcheroo, the bait and switch. The one goes in the front door, one goes in the back door, as we say in pen testing. We have decided to make Zach tell us his favorite war story.
It's going to make my mother very happy. She's going to love this episode.
Jacqueline will appreciate this.
She will.
Shout out to Jacqueline.
I'm surprised. Have you met my mom?
No, but I've edited all of your episodes, so I know intimately every word you've ever said on this podcast.
You'll have to meet her at some point. If we ever make it out to LA at the same time, we can go.
Let's do it.
Have some dinner at Jacqueline's house.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. So, Zach, tell us a little bit about you. What don't we know?
I'll give you the funny parts of my story because I think it's really similar to a lot of the other people, the whole productivity timeline, the lab. That all happened to me, but for those that don't know, I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Oofta.
So, oofta, exactly. Went to St. Cloud State. Really didn't know what I wanted to do when I got out of college, but I had a good friend of mine named Brett DeWall. Shout out to Brett and White Oak Security. I want to have him as a guest at some point too. But Brett and I were at St. Cloud State doing the MIS program, which is pretty heavy security emphasis. But Brett showed me some interesting things he was working on the side, which was basically, things with air crack and, ways to crack WEP networks, basically how to hack wireless.
Gotcha.
So we were experimenting with these tools during our college days, and won't say what, but we were experimenting. And then we had an internship come through that basically laid out all these hacking tools we'd been messing around with, and we're like, holy crap, we can get paid to do this. Like, this is 2012, 2013. Like, I didn't even know. Okay. I'd never even heard of pen testing at the time. But Brett and I decided to apply for this internship at a company called Clifton Larson Allen. They told us later on that we were both not qualified, or at least I for sure wasn't qualified, but they were trying to build a team there. And me and Brett had worked on our college capstone project and a bunch of other stuff. So they took a chance on us. And like the first week of our internship, a few days after I graduated, we were out doing an internal pen test on a bank. And I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, we're hacking into this bank. Like, we're looking at account numbers. Like, a whole world was kind of opening up. And I admit I hadn't worked very hard in college, but once I found that internship, I'm like, this is an incredible opportunity. I want to do this. And I busted ass. Worked at CLA for quite a few years, learned the ropes, eventually moved to Protiviti, worked with big companies. Eventually moved to Fortalice out of Washington, D.C. We've got a couple guests that'll be coming from there. Met a great, fantastic network of people while I was working at Fortalice and got exposed to, again, like more large, complex clients. Eventually decided I want to go do my own thing. Did that for a couple years through COVID, independent consulting, Cerberus Labs. It was pretty much me and a laptop, and I would hire my friends like you and Ryan. Mm-hmm. Slowly, the hiring shifted where you guys were hiring me, and eventually it made sense to become SEVNX, and haven't looked back. So that's kind of the full story of how I got here.
Okay, nice. What do you think the favorite part of your journey was?
Definitely going out on my own and like getting my feet wet with entrepreneurship. I think you could agree that
exciting.
Once you do that and you kind of get a taste for being your own boss, I think I work more now than I ever did when I had consulting jobs, but something about working for yourself, being able to even just do things like scope engagements the way I want, tell a client this is dumb, we're not going to do that, we should do it this way. And, it's not all about just getting the sales done like it is at bigger clients, like having power over that. Like it's just kind of addictive. So been doing it for a while. I couldn't think of anything else than working for a small business that is owned by the operators, I guess.
Yeah.
We get to not only do the work we want the way we want to do it, but we're doing a podcast. I just randomly said that to you one day, and here we are, 10 episodes in. Like, I've always wanted to do this kind of stuff. So I think working for small companies, you get to do the work the way you want to do it, and you can also find time to do like other cool stuff. Our trip through Europe, going to different conferences, all the things we do. I think it's a special place to be.
Yeah, no, it definitely is, and I think we've got a great team here. We have a good team dynamic. We're always kind of doing things together, so I think it's kind of on and off the clock. It's a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, it's a good place to be.
All right, well, when you're on the clock, what are you using as your favorite tool?
I'm not going to talk to a specific tool. I'm just going to talk about my new favorite technique because it's simple and it's been working really well with kind of the new challenges that come with testing cloud security.
So you're going to break your own rules on your own podcast. I guess you can do that.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
There's a bunch of different tools I could mention, but there's a lot of different ways to do this. But the core of it is the technique. So a lot of organizations moving to hybrid Azure AD, Active Directory. Mm-hmm. What we've been finding is a lot of organizations don't fully understand the implications when you just connect your on-prem AD up to an Azure environment. And if it's not done correctly, you all of a sudden expose all kinds of different accounts that are maybe meant for just the internal network, like old service accounts, things like that. Like if they're part of Active Directory and you do a full, a full sync, all of those accounts get synced to your cloud environment and now can be guessed using Microsoft's public APIs. So what we've started doing is curating a list of service accounts across all the different engagements we do, password dumps from the internet, basically anywhere we can find it, we're creating a master list of service accounts. And on top of the password guessing we've always been doing anyway, when a company is using Microsoft 365 or Azure AD for their identity provider, we've been adding in these service accounts. And we've been finding they're frequently configured with bad passwords. And a lot of times they have unintended access into like the Azure cloud or the Azure environment. So if you're not guessing service account passwords, if you're a pen tester, you're not guessing service account passwords against Azure AD, like start curating a list, start trying it. And if you're an organization that has, connected up your on-prem AD to your Azure AD, you better understand what accounts you've now exposed out to the world, because I think a lot of people just don't get what they're putting out there when they make that connection.
Okay. So as my friend Zac Davis would say, if you're not guessing service account passwords and you're not drinking CyberCoffee, what are you doing?
What are you doing? I don't know. Especially the CyberCoffee, SEVNX.com.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? And it hails back to something that has always been a mainstay in pen testing, which is bad cleanup. And the tech debt that these companies have, nobody goes back and cleans up old passwords. They never clean up old service accounts. They don't clean up old servers.
It seems like something that can wait. And you're like, oh, what's going to happen? Well,
or they don't know what's going to break.
Yeah.
Right? They don't want to turn off an account that's been running for 30 years. It's in the name of the guy who set the whole company up, and so they just leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you move, as things move to the cloud, it's opening up a new set of challenges. A lot of ways, I think it makes our jobs a lot more challenging and makes things more secure, but it can open up some of these big gaps.
It definitely changes, I think, the way that, and I'm a little removed from pen testing in the cloud environment these days, but it does seem like it is a harder execution path. You have to leverage more about account properties rather than accounts themselves, right? Because we've gotten more granular with access control, more granular with permissions, more has gone to like this delegate method rather than to this just generic DA or SA or global admin type of privilege. And then with the just-in-time stuff is really kind of making those traditional escalation pathways a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I think it's not so much about like, oh, let's just try and get the keys to the kingdom. Like, yeah, I guess you could go at global admin in an Azure AD environment, just like you go after domain admin on a on-prem AD. But really, you're looking at, what type of data can you get access to, what type of services can you mess with, that type of thing. So
Yeah, and I think you have some ideas for some other people that might be able to share some insights coming on the podcast in the next few months.
definitely, yeah, we've got a lot of good guests coming down the pike.
I like it. All right. Wow me.
I got a physical story. They're everybody's favorites.
Of course you do.
The last physical I did by myself before I came to 7X, actually.
Okay.
And you would know I hate doing physical pen tests until they're over. Because the whole time I was out at Cerberus Labs, whenever I got a physical, I would just hire Matt to do it for me. Or tag along with him while he did it. But for whatever reason, this was like Christmas of 2022, I guess. But for whatever reason, I had to go do it myself. It was out at a West Coast city, and the target was basically like certain floors of like a skyscraper in a downtown area.
Okay.
A downtown area that's known for its problems with homeless drug addicts, I'll just say. So the reason I say that is because they had very tight security over the building itself. Basically, and I was trying to get in there by myself, and I didn't really know how I was going to do it. It was going to be tough. Something that's always worked for me in the past is I'd gone online and looked through the company's Facebook account, and I had found like a really good screenshot of what their badge looks like. Mm-hmm. And I'd made myself a fake badge before I left, and it was on an HID card, and I knew that they had that type of badges. So like if I had the fake badge that looked really good, and if I tapped it, it would make the noise even if it didn't work. A lot of people don't get that, but it's a technique I've used for years. If you have an HID badge and you tap it on a lock, it beeps when it denies you, just the same as it beeps when it opens the door.
That's
so
right.
If you're tailgating somebody, you can walk behind them with your shiny badge and tap it, and it'll make a noise, and they'll think, oh, he's being the good guy. He's tapping even though I'm holding the door open. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of my plan. I didn't really know what to do. I knew that the elevators took some kind of access, and I had to get up to like the 30th floor or whatever, and I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I had my fake badge. So what I decided I was going to do is I was going to go in there at 5:45 in the morning. The desk was manned 24/7, and I was going to say, hey, I just started at this company over COVID, and I've never actually been to the office, but they sent me this badge. And I went over to the elevator, and I did the whole thing. Oh, my badge isn't working. I knew he could see me on the cameras trying to do it, so I went and I gave him the badge again, like 5:45 in the morning. And he said, "Oh, no worries. Somebody's already up there. I'll just give him a call. I'll have him come down and get you." And I was just like, "Well, I guess I'm in." I hadn't heard it put this elegantly until your sister was on the podcast. But I guess I was going to die with the lie. Sometimes on physicals, you just got to keep rolling with this stuff and see what's going to happen. So I was like, "All right, well, this guy's going to come down, and I've got my letter. We'll see what happens. Maybe I can somehow talk my way up." So the guy comes down, and it's like their in-house security person for this particular company. And surprisingly, he takes me right up the elevators and starts asking me what I'm doing. I kind of said, "Oh, it's my first day. I work remote. I'm coming into the office this week to meet the team, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "All right, well, I can't let you in, but you can sit in the lobby until your point of contact gets here." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'll start giving him a call." I was like, "Yeah, I flew in last night from the East Coast. Like, I'm jet lag. That's why I came in so early." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, that's totally fine." So he sets me up in the lobby. He's sitting at the desk, and I'm sitting there. I start doing the wireless assessment, excited to do that. And I thought, well, I'm going to ask to use the bathroom, and then maybe I can sneak off. So I asked to use the bathroom, go in there, do my business, come back out, and he's standing outside the door. So I'm like, this guy's on top of me. Like, he's not going to let me out. But while I was sitting there, he had printed me off. He took my picture and printed me off like a guest badge that said he wanted me to wear. So this guy was following like all the protocols, and he wanted me to wear this until my point of contact got there and activated the badge. So I sat there for maybe half an hour, and then I'm like, I just talked to my guy. He's not going to be here till 9:30. Like, I'm going to go get some breakfast, and I'm going to come back rather than sit right here. And he's like, "Okay, that's fine." Well, when I left, he didn't take the badge, the paper badge off that he had printed for me. So now I had that, and I had my fake badge. So I went down, I got some breakfast. I came back 10 minutes later, and the guard at the front gate or at the lobby of the building had switched because he started at 6 a.m. So now I had two pieces of evidence that I worked at this place. And I went again and said, "Hey, like, this isn't working or whatever. I was already here. I just went to get coffee. I had the coffee. He's like, I'll buzz you up. No problem. So he sends me up. But once I get to the floor, I'm going to be trapped in this,
stairwell.
The lobby and you had
way.
to go through one more set of doors. Well, 2 other people got onto the elevator with me, and I knew that this organization had several floors. The guy who had seen me this morning was on the first one. Well, it just so happens these employees go to the one above it. I was able to piggyback in and tap. It was basically like a miracle. I couldn't believe it. I had gotten so lucky to get behind this person. I tapped my badge. I was in to a mostly empty office, and I went and I set up a cube in the background, finished the wireless, started doing my thing. I was there for like 2 hours. Finally, I'm like, I gotta do something else. So I took an under-door tool, and at this point, I was like ecstatic. I'd gotten in. I didn't think I was going to. Like, I'm just gonna try to get kicked out of this place, so I can, so I could basically leave for the day.
Yeah.
So I pull out my under-door tool. I start going around to the file rooms. People are walking by asking what I'm doing. I'm like, I can't get into the room. I'm trying to open it. Don't say a word. Nobody is like, no matter what I do, I'm going up, I'm asking people to plug in a pineapple. I'm testing the Wi-Fi, like, plug this into your computer. None of them will do it, but for some reason, they don't rat me out. Like,
Right.
they don't try and kick me out. I cannot get kicked out of this building no matter what I do.
This sounds like the one you and I did too.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, so I'm finally like, I got to do something. Like, I'm hungry. I want to go eat lunch. I got to do something to get kicked out of this building. So I just go around and I grab a whole bunch of boxes of random stuff. And then I take a computer monitor off one of the desks and I pack up all my stuff and I get my hands all full. And I just walked over to the elevator and I asked somebody to let me down. I'm like, I got a bag. Like, I got to take all this stuff. Like, will you buzz me down? I got somebody who was on the security team, and he was really confused. Like, he didn't want to do it, but he saw my badge, and I had all this stuff, and he's like, okay, and he sends me down. And at this point, I'm, like, down in the lobby, and I just
With all this stuff.
So I just go set it down, and I trying to call my point of contact. And, like, 2 minutes after I get down there, that same security guard just goes booking out the front door onto the street. Like, oh, look at all frantic and all panicking. And, like, yeah, he comes back in and starts talking to the security desk. And I just, like, kind of wave at him. And he's just like, couldn't believe I'm there. And I went over and I gave him the letter and everything. But it was, I don't know, it was one of my prouder moments. It was rolling with the punches, managed to get some good access. And it's a good story.
What do they say? It's like when luck meets opportunity. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot
when
of
luck meets preparation.
What this is. Yeah. I mean, you got to keep
That's a good
rolling
story.
with stuff. Yeah,
That's
you
a
got
good
to keep
story.
rolling with the punches, and sometimes impossible tasks. That was definitely one engagement where I was just like, I just need to get through this and get shut down, and then I can go home.
Yeah.
And then it ended up, all working out.
I remember, it's funny because that kind of sounds like the one we did in the Midwest where we did the bank in the middle of the night, and then we went back during the day and we were chatting with the contact, and he was like, well, I wonder if you could do this. And then I just walked into that room and did that thing. And he was like,
yeah, he was just like sending you around. He's like, go try and pick those.
yeah, just
Like,
pick the locks in the filing cabinet in the middle of the office. And
Yeah, where all the executives sit. Like, go over there and do something. Like, he was just sending you around the building, like, trying stuff.
Yeah, I literally pulled out a set of lock picks and just bent down and started picking the lock on a filing cabinet in the middle of a crowded office, and nobody said anything.
Yeah. Well, it just goes to show, if you're that employee, you see someone doing something weird,
Say something.
Yeah, you got to say something.
But also, that's like confidence is everything in that world too. If you're just, hey, I'm supposed, like, clearly nobody's robbing the place in the middle of broad daylight with any common sense. So, it would seem weird that that person wasn't supposed to be doing the thing they were doing.
Well, it's like the whole thing. If you ever heard, I've seen like some Instagram reels or YouTube videos where people do this, but they're like, if you just put on a vest and carry around a ladder,
Yeah.
you can do whatever you want and go anywhere you want. Like, some guy got into the Super Bowl doing that, like, just carry a bunch of stuff wearing a high vis vest.
Yeah, which ruins it for the rest of us, because that was a good, technique that we all used. And now I think, now that it's been done so many times, and
people are starting to figure it out.
Yeah, they're not letting the Amazon guy pass the first floor anymore, so that's kind of killing a few of the good ones. And
Yeah, that'd actually be a good one. Get an Amazon vest.
mm-hmm.
But you could get away with a lot of stuff wearing that.
You can probably buy them on Amazon.
To remember that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, good story, Zach. I appreciate a good physical more than probably most, but that was certainly a funny one. Kept me entertained, so appreciate you sharing.
Cool. Well, I think we've been chatting a little bit. Me and you might just record a few more of these. We've got quite a few stories to go around, and Maybe we'll
right.
start doing some repeats too.
Okay.
Got a lot of friends with a lot of good stories.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I already asked you about the CyberCoffee. Is there anything else that I'm supposed to do as the host of this thing?
You're supposed to actually be the one to plug it at the end.
I am. Okay. Let's see. CyberCoffee was originally invented in Guatemala. We actually do have two flavors. One is the Black Hat, which is our Guatemalan, and then we have one that is our Costa Rican, a nice pun on the Costa Rican origin. And I think they're both delicious, but I tend to prefer the Costa Rican myself. But for anybody out there that has not tried either, give it a shot. Save 10% with code WAR10. You can also reach out to Zach at warstories@7x.com if you want to be on the show, if you want to give us some feedback, any love it, hate it. We'd love to hear from you. And I guess with that, we will sign off.
Sounds good.
All right. All right. Cool. See ya.